if you're deploying to Kubernetes, traditionally with Octopus, you would kind of go into this like dark hole. You wouldn't see what was happening in your Kubernetes clusters. But we've got a new innovation here, and Kit's here to tell us all about it.
Yeah, we've been talking to a lot of customers about how they actually, what's the typical process for them to deploy to Kubernetes. And what we hear all the time is I deploy with Octopus and then I open something else. Maybe my command line or some dashboard or some monitoring tool to see what's actually happening on the cluster side. And it's not too bad, but it's just an extra step. And sometimes maybe some engineers, they don't really want to dive that deep in Kubernetes, and they don't want to use too many tools. So for the hey, can we make the experience a bit better, a bit user friendly? And so yeah, we added this new functionality that you can actually see what's going on in the cluster during the deployment, and you can actually see all the objects, all the resources you're deploying with some hierarchy, like parents and children, and you can see the status. And Octopus will tell you, hey, yep, you achieved the desired state you originally wanted. It's all green, and you can move on. Or no, you have some issues there, and then you'll know exactly which object wasn't in the right shape.
So, what kind of objects are we talking about here? Because in Kubernetes, we have all kinds of things. We have like replica sets, and we have pods, and we have network status, and we have anything and everything regarding Kubernetes. What sort of things are we bringing to the surface within Octopus so folks can see what's happening?
Well, it's literally everything you have in your YAML files, plus any children object which generated from that. For example, if you deploy a replica set, you will have replica set and pods. If you're deploying stateful set, you will have your stateful set and replica sets produced, and also the pods. And you will have it for example, you're changing something, so you will see your current pods in the beginning, and they will slowly start disappear, and you will see your new pods, a new replica set, which you're provisioning at the moment. So, and anything else, jobs, services, so you name it. Everything you have in a YAML file, you will see in the separate table on the object status tab.
Excellent. And so this is built into Octopus, I assume, through our built-in steps relating to Kubernetes. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. So you can use it with any built-in steps except for script step, because it's really hard to say at what point what you're going to deploy, but everything else, starting with your YAML file, config map steps, and everything else, you will have it there.
Fantastic. Let's go ahead and jump over to a demo that's already been recorded and take a look.
So I have prepared this project which deploys to Kubernetes. So let's look at the process definition first. So basically, this is just adapted from the Kubernetes official document. So this is a guest book application which uses Redis as the backend, and it also has a PHP frontend to allow to do some interactions with the book. So let's look at each steps in more depth. So we have 3 steps. First, we deploy a Redis leader, and we use the raw YAML step to do the deployment because that's the easiest one. But the Kubernetes status check also applies to deploy container steps. So this just demo the idea. So for the Redis leader, we're going to have a deployment, Kubernetes deployment, which has one replica that runs the Redis image. We also expose this via a service called Redis Later as well on that port. So basically, this step deploys a deployment and a service. We also have Redis followers. So the followers are for like read operations. The leader is for write operation. Oh, by the way, let's go back to the leader and look at the status check configuration, which is the point of the demo. So here we have checked the box, checked the Kubernetes objects are running successfully, and we have a timeout for that. So that's to prevent it from running indefinitely. Here we give it 3 minutes, which is the default. Optionally, you can also have another checkbox, which is wait for jobs to complete. So we'll come back to this and have a discussion in more detail in our next mini demo in this session. So for now, we just disable it because I'm not deploying jobs here. It's not relevant. And yeah, so the followers is a similar setup. So we have a deployment, but this time we have 2 replicas. And we also have a service that serves those, that expose those Redis replicas. The front end is similar, setup similar. So it runs a PHP guestbook application as the front end. So we have 3 replicas, but this time, by experience, I know that the previous 2 steps just like completes too quickly. So that doesn't actually demonstrate our live object status quite well. So in this step, I have injected a little init containers so that before the container actually spins up, we just like wait for 5 seconds so that we can see the whole thing deploying in action. Which gives people a clearer idea of the things running in action. Status check option is configured similar as before, so we just have a default timeout of 3 minutes, and by default we don't check this box. Yeah, so this is the setup. I'm going to save it and create a release and deploy it. So this deployment has targeted a AKS cluster to do deployment. So now it has started, and you can see there's a Kubernetes status tab, which shows the thing is running. So yeah, so here we can see all the stuff has already been deployed by the first step. That's pretty quick because the step itself is quick. So we have a deployment, and we also show the replica set that is created by the deployment, and also the pod that is created by the replica set. We can see that we have a service deployed, and we can see that there's an endpoint slice that is exposed by the service. So we can check the service is actually deployed. For the second step, it is similar. And the third, you can see the pod is running, for a while, and now it is successful. So yeah, so basically this is the how it looks. Now, if you look at the service of the actual guestbook app, it has an external IP because I have used the load balancer type for the service of this frontend, which means we could go to the application, paste the public IP, so I can access my external exposed IP address, and I can use the app guestbook like hello submit, like yeah. So this is pretty much the basic step of how a a deployment will work. So next we are going to have a look at the jobs. So there is, so for jobs, I'm mainly demonstrating the checkbox for wait for jobs option. So this time we are demoing this. The setup is still a raw YAML step. And in this raw YAML, I am running a job. And the job is to calculate pi, basically using Perl, which is a slow thing to do. And for the first round, I'm not checking this box. So, and the result of this is the job is going to be considered successful as soon as it is created. I'm going to create the release this time, deploy to deploy. And again, we can see that. Yeah, let's look at the object status of this job. Yeah, as you can see, so the jobs doesn't have completions yet, but still the step has been successful. This is because when we don't check that option, the job is considered successful as soon as it is created, because a lot of customers wait for the whole job to complete because the job can be fairly slow. So, and let's try again, but this time we're going to check that box and see what happens, right? So I'm going to say, wait for job to complete for this step and save. And before I create release, I'm going to delete the old job because, otherwise the job is going to be considered already successful. So I have deleted the old job and I've checked this box. And now I'm going to create a release and deploy it. So I'll go to the status check and yeah, it's running. Just wait for a few seconds. So you can see the job itself is running, but it's not completing. We're just waiting. The step isn't completed yet. So after 10 seconds, the pi has been, computed successfully in that container, and now the step is successful. So this is the wait for jobs completion, option. So yeah, that's pretty much all I wanted to demo.
When can people start to see this in their instances of Octopus? Like, where are we shipping it? How are we making it available?
Actually, it's already available. So everyone in the cloud now have access to this feature, and you can literally try it now. So there is a tricky thing. So we don't want to disrupt anyone's deployment. So if you already have some projects and you deploy it to Kubernetes, you have to go back to your process editor and enable it at the step level. If you're adding new project or you're adding new step to existing project, this feature will be enabled by default. So if you just started with Kubernetes and Octopus, you will have it. And also if you use on-prem version, in the latest release, it's available, so you need to install it, and you will have access to the feature.
Excellent. And are you soliciting feedback from the community for any feature requests or anything like that?
Well, we have a lot of feedback within the last couple of weeks. So it's actually overwhelming how many people tried it, and we see the numbers are growing. So for now, it's all about just, make it even more, informative and more in depth. It's a first iteration. We're not saying we're stopping here. We actually love to hear feedback. And our goal is to make maybe first initial debugging easier with Octopus and raise the confidence that deployment actually happened and is successful. So we're listening to feedback, and please let us know what else can we add there. More logging, maybe more Kubernetes events, maybe something else. We're definitely looking forward to improve this feature further this year, next year. So it's not one-off. It's like we'll keep working on that.
That's awesome. Thanks a lot, Kit. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.